k'uyu munsi twaje ku rwibutso, kubera k'uyu munsi twaje kubibuka, kubera intimba nyinshi iri ku mutima, kubera urukumbuzi ufitiye abo wabuze, kubera abana b'ibitambambuga bicwaga batazi n'icyo bazira, kubera ababyeyi bishwe by'urubozo bakabanza kubicira abana mu maso. Kuko mvuga ibyo ukumva ari ubuhamya bwawe, nkaba mbivuga ukumva ari wowe mvuga, kuko iyo nkuru umva ari ubuhamya bwawe, iyo nkuru reka nyirekeraho. Kubera yuko yishwe mudaherukana, ukaba utaramenye byibura n'agakuru ke, ntiwigeze umenya naho bamujugunye, cyangwa se ngumenye ijambo rya nyuma yavuze. Ukumbura ya minsi mukiri kumwe, ibyo bihe byiza byose ubu byabaye amateka. Kuko mvuga ibyo ukumva ari ubuhamya bwawe, nkaba mbivuga ukumva ari wowe mvuga, kuko iyo nkuru umva ari ubuhamya bwawe, iyo nkuru reka nyirekeraho. Ndagusabye ntiwibuka, maze ukumva imbaraga zibaye nke. Ndagusabye ntiwibuka, maze ukumva inimbira kuganje. Ntiwibuka urupfu abawe bishwe, jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye. Ntiwibuka agahinda bajyanye, jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye. Kubera ko wagiye uzi kuzabasanga, kubera ko wasanze bose barashize, aho mwari mutuye wasanze ari amatongo, abari bahatuye nabo usanga barishwe. Kuko mvuga ibyo ukumva ari ubuhamya bwawe, nkaba mbivuga ukumva ari wowe mvuga, kuko iyo nkuru umva ari ubuhamya bwawe, iyo nkuru reka nyirekeraho. Kubera yuko mwirwanye uko mushoboye, mugira ngo murebe ko byibura bucya kabiri. Kubera ababyeyi barundaga amabuye, barunda amabuye mu bitenge bahereza abagabo. Kubera babasaza na ya miheto yabo, kubera bya bikwerere na ya macumu yabo, kubera ya nzara n'inyota ya cya gihe, kubera amabuye yarwanaga n'amasasu, kubera cya gihe twigabizwa n'ibitero, aho ni w'ababyeyi baherukana n'abana, aho ni w'abana baherukana ababyeyi iyo nkuru reka nyirekeraho ndagusabye niwibuka maze ukumva imbaraga zibaye nke ndagusabye niwibuka maze ukumva inimbira kuganje niwibuka urupfu abawe bishwe jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye niwibuka agahinda bajyanye jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye abo wibuka none reka nge ngusaba niwibuka kagahinda bajyanye uje wibuka na bya bihe byiza bimwe mwagiranye cyagiye mukiri kumwe kandi uje wibuka kwabawe batazimye kandi uje wibuka iteka wiyubaka kubera yuko abawe batigeze bazima kubera yuko y'amashami yashibutse ndagira ngo muvandimwe ngira icyo ngusaba ugerageze maze umwenyure gake kubera turiya twana tw'utwuzukuru twabo kubera ayo mashami abari ruseke gato maze wibuke kwabawe batazimye maze wongere uhobere ubuzima maze ugerageze wumva icyanga cyo kubaho maze ugerageze wongere kubaho kuko iyo nkuru wumva ari ubuhamya bwawe nk'abanyivuga ukumva ari wowe mvuga kuko iyo nkuru wumva ari ubuhamya bwawe iyo nkuru reka nyirekeraho ndagusabye niwibuka maze ukumva imbaraga zibaye nke ndagusabye niwibuka maze ukumva inimbira kuganje niwibuka urupfu abawe bishwe jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye niwibuka agahinda bajyanye jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye niwibuka agahinda bajyanye jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye niwibuka agahinda bajyanye jya wibuka n'ibihe byiza mwagiranye
na Nzirumbanje, Mukomeza Marishari na Bizimungu Jean de Dieu, nimudusurize na ba mwarimu Kabayiza, Buturo, Gashotsi, Kagabo, Nkubiri na Ruvugabigwi, mudusurize Musirikare, Rufara na Kaboyi bibwiri, n'Akarahamuheto na Shogoza bo mu Kinzuzi, muradusurize n'abari inshuti zo ku Mugote nka Ruzibiza Fideli na Nkurikiyimana Deo n'abandi bose.
hashize imyaka 15 twibuka abacu bazize uko bavutse bavukijwe ubuzima bwabo bavuye urw'agashinyaguro turibuke
nimuze twibuke ariko tuniyubaka duharanire kubaho neza twubaka u Rwanda rushya natwe twese abacitse ku icumu interuro ni imwe ntabwo bizongera kubaho ukundi
iyo nama y'ingengabitekerezo ya jenoside umunyarwanda ntayishaka gupfobya jenoside byo byibagirwe
tuzarwanya ikibi cyose kibiba amacakubiri tuzarwanya n'abo bose bakwirakwiza ibitekerezo bihembera
tuzabarwanya
oya turabyanze turabyamaganye icyo tugusabye Mana nyir'ububasha n'ubushobozi nuko twazongera tukabonana n'abacu mu byari bw'ijuru udusenderezemo ibishashi by'ubuzima maze abawe twese turirimbe hari ibyiringiro byo kubaho neza hari ibyiza byinshi bidutegereje Rwanda wibarutse abavunyi mugongo waduhetse hora
Good afternoon. My name is Janvier Katabarwa.
My name is Frank Rukundo.
And we are coordinators for today's event. This event was organized by British Columbia Rwandan community in collaboration with SFU. On behalf of British Columbia Rwandan community, I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming here today to be with us on this 28th commemoration of 1994 genocide against Tutsi. We want to thank, in particular, SFU for the use of this room. We want to thank Vancouver Police Department for being with us in Walk to Remember. We want to thank other communities and friends of Rwanda who are here to support us today. Today is one of the 100 days that we mourn and remember more than 1 million people who perished during 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. They were our parents, family, siblings, children. And in doing so, we are also celebrating life. We want to stand here and tell the perpetrators that we are alive and we will forgive, but we will never forget. Without further ado, I'm going to pass the microphone to Frank. He will go over today's program.
Thank you, Janvier. My name is Frank Rukundo. I am very, can I say, first of all, very fortunate to be here with my brother and everybody around here. Can I say one thing? Thank you to each and everybody who showed up. Showing up is coming here to be with us on a day like this. Showing up is the parents who had to find babysitters so they could be here with us. Showing up is everybody who really managed to take a day off. Or even, you know, it's a beautiful Saturday. You could have stayed home and said, okay, I'm going to have a beer or something, but you decided to be here. So that is tremendous. So thank you so much. Okay, now moving on, I really want to we're running out of time, but I just wanted to go through what exactly is going to happen today. We're going to have a prayer at exactly, what time is it? At exactly 3:10. We also have a chance to watch a documentary which really talks about the main history of our Rwandan, basically the Rwandan history, right? And then we will have the guest of honor, the acting superintendent, Terry Yang, and we will have a testimony by Mama Lambert. We will also have music by Maria Johanna. At exactly 4:20, we will have the Kwibuka Remembrance Ceremony, lighting candles. And then we have a survivor who will be telling us exactly what happened. So it's going to be quite sad, emotional, but this is the thing. We are Rwandans. We have gone through the worst. We are ready for anything that comes along. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take the opportunity to introduce Giselle.
Oh, just to let you know, she's the vice president of British Columbia Rwandan community.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, I would like to acknowledge that we stand on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Tutsi, Coquitlam, Coquette, Kwantlen, Smiamo, and the Tsawarsan peoples. Excellences, Acting Superintendent Terry Young, Author Ndizeye Omar, the Rwandan ambassador in Canada, dear survivors, distinguished guests, friends of Rwanda, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Mwiriwe neza. I have the honor to welcome you to the 28th anniversary of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda under the theme, Remember, Unite, Renew. Twibuke, twiyubaka. Every year, starting from April 7th, our country and the Rwandan communities around the world observe annual commemorations events during 100 days of remembrance to educate the youth and our local communities about the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. During this time, we discussed the history leading up to the genocide and measures to prevent any future acts of the genocide in the world. Thanks everyone for joining us today as we pay tribute
in neighboring countries. In 1963, there was mass killing in Cyanika, Kaduha, in Rwanda. And so there was a Gikongoro at the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, so 1973, at that time in 1963, over 10,000 Tutsis were killed. There was a lot of discrimination. You couldn't go to school in higher education, discrimination in work. Yeah, so that was genocide was prepared over 3 decades. In 1994 was actually final, but it didn't start in 1994. Yeah, so there is a lot to say.
Absolutely. Just to give you guys a little bit of what happened, April 7th, the entire world was getting ready for Easter holidays. But our people back home, especially the Tutsis, were hiding. Can you imagine that? Babies being killed, professors killing their own students, CEOs killing their own employees, religious leaders forgetting about their own and making sure that they direct the militias and the extremists to come and kill these people. And these are Tutsis who were born just the way they were born, and that was a problem to some. So, ladies and gentlemen, as as we break this down, people are getting ready for Easter holidays and Easter gifts. Other people are dying, and these were Tutsis. So it was such a preposterous thing that Rwanda as a country had to go through, but most of all, the Tutsis, because of who they were. Janvier, any pronouncements on that?
I can't finish the whole history in 1 minute or in 1 hour. But you will see a lot through testimonies. We'll have survivors who will come here and give you a little bit of what they've been through. So today we had honor of having one of our guests of honor, Inspector Terry Young, and who would like to come and share some few words with us.
Does this work? Okay. Anyway, thank you. It's nice to see everybody here. It's an honor to be here to say a few words. A little bit about myself. Actually, like many of you, I'm actually an immigrant from Hong Kong and also a former colony of the UK until 1997. I remember when I was a kid, before going to boarding school in the UK, the areas in Hong Kong where it says Chinese and dogs not allowed. So that's a pretty interesting legacy of colonialism. And my family and I traveled to Tanzania a few years ago, very close to Rwanda, and just struck by how beautiful the African continent is. But unfortunately, wars and child soldiers are still being used today in Ukraine, Afghanistan. I had the good fortune to meeting General Romeo Dallaire, who was the UN peacekeeping commanding from the Canadian Army at the UN. I read all his books. The one that really struck me is the one that is quite famous. The title is "They Fight Like Soldiers, but They Die Like Children." And Romeo actually spends the rest of his life trying to eradicate the use of child soldiers because they were not, they were just actually conscripted. There's no choice. They have to actually kill people, and they were told to do so. But just before I go on, I just want to also recognize that while I'm speaking to you on the traditional territories of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, our country's history with indigenous people is another story altogether. And I think there cannot be any reconciliation without truth. I think the world doesn't know much about Rwanda. I had to be educated a few years ago, read up on it. But by and large, like the United States, like NATO, when the conflict was going on, it was not receiving a lot of attention until it was way too late. So on the day job, explaining about myself, on the day job, I worked at the police department. I'm in charge of the diversity, inclusion, and indigenous relations. And also, I'm also in charge of their community policing services section with all the community policing centers, block watch, and we actually have 12,000 volunteers in the state of Vancouver to try to make this a better place, a safer place for everybody. Something I was particularly proud of course, policing has a long way to go, but our section actually created an African Descent VPD Advisory Committee to advise our Vancouver Police Board, which is an oversight body for the entire police department here in Vancouver. And a couple months earlier, we inducted our first African Descent board member, Comfort, as one of our board members, actually obviously in charge of the police department. I just want to say it's 3 nights ago, I was at a Jewish Federation event and talk about remembrance of the Holocaust. And it was heartbreaking when one of the survivors walked up, she was in her 90s, and she said she witnessed her father, her mother, her sister, and her brother taken away from her and sent to Auschwitz, which she never saw them again. And then really broke her heart is as recent as a few months ago in Ottawa, it's in Washington, D.C. during the insurgency. There was a protester wearing a T-shirt that says Camp Auschwitz, staffer. So this is 2022. If you ask me if 20 years ago I moved to this country, would Canada, would the United States, would North America be in 2022 where we are today? We'd probably say no. I think it's really sad. This country is based on immigration. I think everybody was a settler. It's a settler before the indigenous, after the indigenous people. But if you look around the news, you look around out there, many people are still targeted based on a cultural or religious background. I was at a mosque last night. There's a recent incident in Surrey. Somebody tried to run them over during evening prayer for Ramadan. And again, this is April 2022. I think this is not good. To say this is not a good thing is an understatement. So I think we have to band together. As part of the Asian community here in Vancouver, we felt the pain of Asian hate crime the last 2 years during the pandemic. It was up 700%. 700%. And only 25% of hate crimes are actually reported. Just think about that for a second. There's 3,000 low-income seniors living in Chinatown, not because they wanted to, because they can't afford to live in another senior's home. And I was quoted in a Vancouver Sun article, Chinatown was founded on the basis of exclusion. Early Chinese settlers here were not even allowed to be citizens. The first act enacted by Victoria when it became part of Canada was to make sure that Indigenous and Chinese people do not have the right to vote. And if you're an Indigenous person, you volunteer to be veterans, or you vote, you will lose your status. And you go and fight for your country that does not claim you as their own, even though you were here before anybody else. When you come back, your veterans benefits is a fraction of somebody else's. Is that good? Is that fair? Is that really what we want to do, aspire as a country? I hope not. So we have a lot of questions to ask ourselves. At the end of the day, I think we all have to band together. We do advocate for different groups. You cannot rely on Indigenous groups to champion for themselves. You cannot rely on the Asian community to fight racism. You cannot rely on African descent, the micro subgroups to fight for themselves. When other people laugh at the jokes, the stereotypes, a council meeting in the city of Vancouver 2 nights ago, there was a merchant in Chinatown. The same people bear sprayed her, robbed her. When customers find out her appliance store in Chinatown, they do not want to come down there because it's a terrible place to be. And some spectators said, you just should eat more rice. That's the answer. That's the answer in April 2022. I mean, I'll be lying to say I'm not upset. I mean, obviously, this is not something we take comfort in. But what are we doing about it? I was part of an interfaith group with a rabbi from the Jewish community, with an indigenous leader, Jody Wilson-Raybould, and Muslim community. We went to a school on the west side. And 80% of the grade 11 and grade 12 students actually said, in their minds, there's no racism in this country. I realized why, because when I left the talk, the parking lot jammed with Bentley, Porsche, and Range Rovers, and they were driving back to the west side. Now, we cannot arrest our way out of hate crime. We have to go through education, advocacy, and people banding together to do this. So, you know, the atrocity of Rwanda is repeated in Ukraine, is created in Afghanistan, is going on and on. So I think it's important to remember the past, like the Holocaust, or like all the atrocities around the world, but to ask ourselves, what are we going to do? What can we do about this? Can we advocate? Can we actually speak for other people? I mean, is it okay to stereotype certain group of people being lazy? They're not good drivers. They drive up the real estate prices simply because they look different. I mean, I have the misfortune of being told to go back to China, even though I wasn't born there. A few months ago, I was driving around minding my own business. Like, my wife's from the UK. Nobody ever told her to go back to London. So why some people have a better sense of belonging in this country than the rest of us? That is a question I want you to answer. That is why, you know, unless we all band together instead of working against each other, we're never going to get to where we want to go. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Inspector Young. Terry Young.
Thank you, Inspector. Ladies and gentlemen, this was great, just having somebody from a different, you know, looking at it from a different perspective, so we can see how we can actually relate what is going on to what exactly happened to us. Now, moving on, we have a short testimony from a lady. She lived it, she survived it, and she's going to tell us something about it. It's going to be a video, but before we get into that, I just wanted to say something. Nowadays, there's a lot of stuff going on. People denying what exactly happened to Rwandans, especially the Tutsis. People denying the genocide against the Tutsis in Rwanda. Now, you could watch a whole bunch of those, but it's up to you to see what exactly is something you can actually digest. Now, watching Mama Lambelle, take your time, think about her, think about anybody else who could have gone through the same thing at that moment. Janvier, do you have anything that you would like to say about that documentary you're going to watch?
What I'm going to say about it is just it's a short testimony. She's one of many of us who've been through this horrific event of 1994 genocide against Tutsi. Like Frank said, there's a lot of deniers because they live in shame of what they did. So without further ado, let's our technical department do their own thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Izuba rirarenga ntirizima
amazina yanjye nitwa Mukarubuga Benta bakunze kunyita ariko mama Rambere. Papa ni Gakwaya Eliyezeri, mama Mukakimenyi Mariya. Umugabo wanjye yitwaga Rucyahana Placide. Navutse tariki 28 z'ukwa 12 1952. Mvuka mu cyahoze ariko mine Masango, ubu habaye mu Kabagari, akarere ni Ruhango. Genocide yansanze Nyanza. Nakoraga umurimo wo kurera abana no kubigisha. Uwo murimo nawukoze imyaka 24, nigisha ntegura umwaka wa 6 gukora ikizamini cya leta bakajya muri segonderi. Uwo murimo narawukundaga, nawukoranye umurava muri iyo myaka 24 yose. Abaciye mu biganza byanjye baba abagabo bo kubihamya. Genocide yatangiye ndeba irangira ndeba. Namaze amezi 3 mu bihuru mfite uruhinja mu mvura. Rimwe bakadufata bakatugeza ku cyobo nkahakurwa n'imbaraga z'Imana. Uwo mwana mutoya nari mfite n'umwana wanjye Rambere yaronkaga ari mu mugongo. Iyo igitero cyaturukaga ibumoso abazi kwiruka bajyaga iburyo, cyaturuka iburyo abazi kwiruka bakagana ibumoso. Ababyeyi bari baratubwiye ko tuzajya twihisha dutandukanye, kuko 5 n'9 ndayizi nari mfite imyaka 7, 7 birongera, 7 birongera, ariko ntibyari bifite ubukana nk'ubw'I9 kane. Uwo mwana rero niwe nagumanye mu mugongo, turihishanya, Imana imundindiramo, twembi turarokoka. Ubwo kandi cyadukuraga umutima ni induru, ni amafirimbi, nizo slogan ziteye ubwoba, nimbwa baduhigishaga, byari biteye ubwoba. Ni mu mashyamba arimo inyamaswa, ariko inyamaswa zaratubaniye, ntawe inzoka yariye, ntawe umubu wariye wa malaria, nta. Ikindi kijya kintangaza cy'imbaraga z'Imana, izo mpinja ntizariraga, ntabwo zariraga, byari byaraziyobeye. Genocide yantwaye papa. Hepfo aho hari uruzi bamutemamo 2, na basuzana bari baturanye, Mukarukaka wari umumama muremure, n'abandi baturanyi b'Abatutsi bajugunya muri Nyabarongo. Mama rero nawe bamujugunyemo. Uruzi hagwaga imvura nyinshi iramuruka imujugunya mu gifunzo. Bageze mu rugo mama abangira gusubira kuhava, baramwica. Twamutaburiye mu cyobo cya metero 12. Twabonye nagahoma munwa. Mubyara wanjye bamushubijemo nanone bwa kabiri, ariko noneho ntiyapfa nyine arapfa. Genocide ntwara abana, Joyeuse arapfa, w'imfura yanjye Utayisira arapfa, na Jerime twari dukunze kwita bebe. Genocide yantwaye umugabo, bamwishe tariki 24 z'ukwa 4 1994. Batwaye mu modoka barabapakira. Abagabo bakoreraga leta, ni ukuvuga barimo ba directeri, abaprofeseri, abaganga. Nta mugore batwaye, nta n'umukobwa batwaye muri iyo modoka, kuko bari bazi urwo bazabica nyuma rwo kubafata ku ngufu. Amakuru muri Gacaca twabashije kumenya, babatwaye baberekeje i Nyanza mu mujyi. Bageze ku cyuzi cya Dibwa, aho abajandarume b'i Nyanza bari barashinze bariyeri, naho amakuru agera. Mu kwibuka tujyanayo uturabyo tugashyiraho muri icyo cyuzi, kuko Jafeti nawe yivugiraga ko yabagarukirije ku cyuzi aho abajandarume bari, nta kindi yongeraho. Genocide yantwaye abana, hari Joyeuse na Claudette bari inkumi, naho abahungu Olivier na bene nyina nyine babiciye ku musaza witwa Munyabitare Stefano. Munyabitare yari yararereye abana, ariko nawe baramwishe. Urwo rugo narwo barutsinzemo abantu benshi, ni benshi bahaguye. Umwuzukuru wa Munyabitare witwa Frida n'ubu bariho, niwe ubitubwira kuko yavuye mu butaka aho babatabye mu muringoti babakubiyemo bose. Mama we bamuciye umutwe utakara ku mwana wanjye witwa Olivier yari akikiye. Frida rero niwe wabidutekereje kandi yagize ubutwari yandika igitabo Chosen to Die, Destined to Live. Tubataburira imitima yacu yendaga no guturika. Mu muryango wanjye nige warokotse jyenyine kwa data. Bamasenge nta numwe. Bamarume bakoze amarorerwa. Imyaka bagasahura, ibyo mu nzu bagasahura. Twasigaye n'imyenda barasahura. Nambitswe n'inkotanyi zinsanze mu gihuru. Ndazishimiye pe. Mu by'ukuri Imana yakoresheje inkotanyi zihagarika Genocide. Umuntu yibaza yahitagamo gupfa byari biturutiye kubaho pe. Gupfa byari biturutiye kubaho. Mu by'ukuri twageze aho twari dutuye ku matongo, twakirwaga n'intumbi ku misozi, twakirwaga n'imbwa ku gasozi. Hari umukecuru rero twahuye arambwira ati uracyariho, wabaye warapfaga, ati kubuza imfura, ati biheko, ati ni ku Banyarwanda bavugaga. Ni ukuri sinjya mwibagirwa, yatumye ubwenge bwanjye butakara. Nanjye ntekereza abo bakuru, ntekereza uwo mpetse wampeze mu mugongo. Ntawabivuga. Ndashimira Imana yanteye akanyabugabo siniyahure n'umwana wanjye kuko abenshi bariyahuye, basangaga ibibaye bakiyahura. Ahubwo icyo nakoze nibutse ko papa nyita Beata ryavugaga uhiriwe, umunyamahirwe. Ndavuga ntese ubu ndacyari umunyamahirwe, ndarireka n'amagingo nayo kuko ari izina ry'amateka. Gusa niyita mama Ramberi. Ramberi ararokotse na mama we turi babiri. Numva nshimiye Imana. Naje kujya i Kigali kubwo umutekano no kugira ngo umutima wanjye n'amaso yanjye bokongera kubona abampagaritse kuri bariyeri, abanshumurije imbwa. Narababonaga n'abagore babo n'abana babo. Ndahunga Nyanza nzi Kigali. Ngeze i Kigali nabwo sinasinziraga. Narahageze rero nahura n'umuntu akambwira ati musaza wawe yasize utwana tubiri twarokotse, murumuna wawe yasize utwana tubiri twarokotse. Nibwo niyemeje kubazana ngo mbarerane na Ramberi. Nabareza ari 14 barakuze bose. Mwambaza muti wabareze ute? Naragiye nsaba akazi k'ubwarimu kuko nibwo nari narize. Hanyuma nigisha imyaka 2. Nareba usa n'umwana nzi nigishije, umva ndahahamutse, ariko nza kubireka. Ndavuga ngo ntazahahamukira imbere y'abana, ariko nakundaga uwo mwuga. Hari habonetse umwanya mu isanduku y'abakozi, ndagenda ndahakora, naho mpakora imyaka 4. Ndahava njya gukora mu muryango wampumurije witwa Solace Ministries, washinzwe na Gakwandi John. Mba umukansera. Numva ngeze aho ngomba kuko nahumurizaga abapfakazi, ngahumuriza imfubyi, ngahumuriza abafashwe ku ngufu. N'ubu niho ngikora mu myaka 25. Icyo nshima Imana, ndashimira Imana ko yomoye uruguma rwanjye igapfuka igisebe, nkabasha guhumuriza abandi, nkarera abo bana 14. Ubu 3 bafite masters, 8 bafite lisansi. Umwe yize hoteleri, 2 barangije secondaire. Nanjye nibutse uko batubujije kwiga kera, nsubira gushaka imanite. Ndagenda muri examen ya imanite, sindana amanota menshi, mba mbonye diplome ya imanite. Ndavuga nti simpagararira, ndagiye njya kwiga universite. Yiga imyaka 4. Narangije kuri universite mfite amanota ya mbere. Graduation yabaye nujuje imyaka 65. Byanateye ubugabo abajene twiganaga, baravuga bati uyu mukecuru aduteye ubugabo nkajya mbabwira nti iri ne jamais tard pour bien faire byaranduhije ariko ndabikora nyangira inama urubyiruko hari urubyiruko dusengana mboneraho uburyo bwo kubabwira kubaha Imana no kubaha abandi icyo wanga ko umuntu yabakorera nabo ntibakagikorera abandi ikindi nishimira urabona amaze gukura nibaza ko uzavuga amakuru hanyuma nandika ibitangaza byose Imana yagiye ikorera imbere y'amaso yanjye ndabyandikamo n'ubuzima bwanjye kuva badutoteza 5 n'ikenda nta kindi tuzira ubwoko 6 3 7 ndabyibuka nari umukobwa wujuje imyaka 20 baranyirukankana na mubyara wanjye Gicari na murumuna wanjye Rosalia abo ubwo barapfuye muri genocide umusaza witwa Mariko aduhisha mu iheneze yanga kudushyira mu nzu nini ngo bahataha dusanga iryo joro twararanye n'ihene twamaze nk'iminsi 4 turarana n'ihene ariko igikorwa yakoze yasohoye umuheto we aravuga ngo nta wirukana umukobwa ku gasozi arafora arasa mu basubira hakurya twari twasimbutse umugezi bita Masango bitiririya komine 90 mu byitso bavuga ngo twaracukuye inzu ngo dushyiramo imbunda Imana irandokora narabyanditse nibyo niboneye n'amaso ntabwo ari ibyo nasomye ntabwo ari ibyo nabariwe nibyo niboneye n'amaso byose birimo muri icyo gitabo for those who don't believe in miracles kandi abanyamahanga nagenzemo nagiye muri Amerika nagiye mu Budage 2 mu Buholandi ngiyeyo 7 nagiye Luxembourg nagiye Nairobi nagiye Kampala ntekerereza abantu nagiye Paris harimo abantu bashaka kuyobya uburari bakavuga ngo nimumbabarire kandi mwibagirwe to forgive is not to forget ntushobora kwibagirwa amateka yawe ahubwo uyubakiraho ukirinda kuyatindamo ahubwo kuko iyo nyatindamo ntabwo aba bana bari kwiga iyo nyatindamo nanjye ubwanjye ntabwo mba ndi ukundi mba ndindera mba ndahandi Imana yabujije umugambi w'umwana w'umuntu bararirimbaga ngo ye tubatsembatsembe ye narabyimviye n'amatwi yanjye u Rwanda rwarazutse ndashimira uwitanze wese kugira ngo u Rwanda rube ruzima njya ngenda no mu muhanda ngapfukama nkabwira Imana ngo warakoze gushoboza kuduha ubuyobozi bwiza leta yahumurije abapfakazi turakenyera turakomeza mu by'ukuri baturihiriye abana izo mfubyi ikindi nta kwibagirwa we ndashimira igitekerezo bagize cyo kubakira inshike ese leta yacu idatanga imiti igabanya ubukana ku banduye sida bafashwe ku ngufu byari kugenda bite ko abantu bapfaga umuntu akagira ngo banabaroze ariko ubu ngubu imiti bayitangira ubuntu ibyo nabyo turabishima hari ibintu byinshi byo gushima mundeke shime n'imiryango nterankunga ijambo ryiza ni mugenzi w'Imana ndashima amatorero ndashimira bose umuntu wese wambwiye ijambo ryiza Imana imuhe umugisha
Wow. That was incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, it was like watching a movie that was so realistic. To me, this is a true definition of class strength. And when we talk about strength, there's that quintessential definition of strength that comes from within. And watching my mother in bed, to me, that was breathtaking.
Yes.
The fact that, she was a teacher and, looking at what she had to go through and going back to university and doing what she's doing right now, this is what we call heroism. You know, regardless of what she went through, she can still be in a position to say something.
Yes, as you can see, Mama Lambert, she's planning to write books and books to tell stories. I see there's a lot of young people here, and I'm pretty sure that most of you have moms, dads, or relatives who've been through hell. If you ever had to talk to them, ask them their stories. And it's your responsibility to go out there and write books, because we have a lot of people who survived the genocide but who are not here with us today. But they share their testimony, what they've been through, and their memories live with us. So it's time that we stand up and start writing books. Because if we forget, a tragic event may happen again. It's our responsibility to remember and keep their memories alive. So the following moment is the moment of Kwibuka. It's a ceremony of remembrance ceremony. I would like to invite survivors who are here, who want to say their names. There is many of us here who lost parents, siblings. This is the time that you're gonna come here, for you to come here and light a candle for them. If there is a people who want to step here, step forward and light a candle with us, I'd like to invite them to join us. Thank you.
Yeah, you can.
Can you please reduce the lights here for a
Hi
minute?
everyone. My name is Charles Shima Kishi. I was 15 years old. I was 15 years old, turning 16 in April. I was born on the 10th of April, and the genocide started on the 7th. So I survived, and for me, I still hear the sound of people. I still see them being killed. So it's something we should not forget, and it really pains me when people try to deny that the genocide against the Tutsi ever happened when I was there. So an event like this, where we can come and raise awareness and especially talk to the young people, yeah, we should do that. I just want to speak for those who did not make it. I'm not going to go through the whole testimony, but there is a person who told me, a friend of mine, we were about the same age, and so one time we were kind of talking, and she said to me, she said, goodbye. And I said, goodbye. I mean, you know, she had survived, you had survived, we were kind of hiding. You know, to this day, I don't like running because I did a lot of running. You really had to know running. So she said, goodbye. And I said, no, I just need to go do something. I'm going to see you. She said, no, this is the last time you will see me. And that was the last time I saw her. And the genocide against the Tutsi did not end in Rwanda, by the way, because I happened to be in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and I was also chased there. by Interahamwe. And people are just going to deny things that happen. Anyways, thank you. And so let's not forget. We can forgive, but let's not forget. And the young people, please try to, read and hear more of the testimony and talk to us, because the genocide against the Tutsi happened. And if anyone is going to dare deny it, they should come and talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't even know if I should say thank you, but that was really great.
It takes courage to share. Thank you very much.
Thanks, brother.
Is there anyone else who want to share? We still have a few minutes. We can. All right. If there's no one else, is there anything that you want to say?
Yeah, a few things that I wanted to say. Watching Mama Lambert, that went straight to my brain. I will never forget that. But what I wanted to say is that there's a whole bunch of there's very many of Mama Lamberts who do not have the opportunity or the courage to do that. But if you know any Mama Lambert out there, and you know she's really there, or Papa Lambert, please reach out to them, speak to them, comfort them, and that's how we go and do it. Like I said, we went through the worst, but we're not ready to go through the worst. And that takes courage. That takes you, me, him, to speak and preach and make sure that we counterattack those who are trying to deny our history, those who say the genocide against the Tutsis never happened. To me, that is incredibly bizarre, incredibly preposterous. So what I'm trying to say right now is that we have to stay strong. We have to stay together, because we are having people who are trying to take us back to that horrendous, kind of act.
Thank you. I would like to invite everyone to stand up. And we're going to take a minute and light a candle. And have a minute of silence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nadine, can you play music for us? Like a minute? Thank you.
umunsi avuka yaje ameze nk'abandi yasoromye inkeri yariye imifumba ajya kuba mukuru yabajije umubyeyi igituma papa we atamuzi atamubona umubyeyi atuje yamujyanye mu cyumba amubwira ko se yakubiswa agahwera nyamara uwamwishe atigeze anabiryozwa yumva ikigatura gikebanyije ubwenge yongeye kubaza umubyeyi wamureze abona amushengura ahitamo kumureka nyuma gusobanukirwa ntibyatinze kuko inshuro nyinshi yahizwe bukware mu 94 byose bijya guturika ubwo imyitozo yabanje ubwo bwose yashyizwe ahagaragara u Rwanda rukazima yibaza niba yaragomeye Imana nzahora nzirikana abana b'u Rwanda batsembwe bazira uko Imana ibahaye nzaharanira ko bitongera kubaho imbarutso urwitwazo rwabaye indege yahiriye i Kigali ku Kibuye baricwa ribagutamaza umugambi wa kera igihugu cyose gicura imiborogo barumuna be n'abakuru be nta n'umwe n'akagakecuru kishwe by'urubozo yayobewe n'aho umurambo wapfuritswe agarutse arenga bibereye u Rwanda akayira nk'aka kanditswe n'amagorwa ni kamwe ku benshi banyuranyije amage kibutsa abacu twabuze tubakunda dusabira ihirwe rurema itabima turibuka mwebwe mwizeraga Imana mugana urusengero musaba kurokoka barahabasanga bishi barabatikiza habaho ibirenga uruvugiro bagenzi
Thank you.
nzahora nzirikana abana b'u Rwanda.
So the following moment, I want to introduce you Omar. He's a survivor, author of Life and Death in Nyamata. So he'll have time to introduce himself. Omar, please welcome. Is Omar here? Yeah. Actually, we're gonna use a video. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to reiterate on that. Okay.
Hello. Am I the next? Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you so much. Um, okay, now I had issues of technology before, but sorry for that. And I want to start by comforting by other survivors who are here, who have lost their beloved family members and relatives during the 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. And thank you very much for also inviting me today so that we can have this exchange or reflection on the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. So when I was invited, I was told that our emphasis today will be on memory and the denial of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. As you may know, one of the challenges we have after the genocide includes trauma, but also denial is one of the biggest challenge that we have as a society, but also as the survivors in particular. So allow me to share some slides as we have this conversation today so that we can, I was told that also that there is a Q&A session. Maybe before that, we can have this conversation around the presentation. And I hope that it will be informative, but also helping us to go through our history that we shared with the history of Rwanda, as a society, but also the memory, the memorization process of genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. I'm not sure if you are able to see the presentation now. Can you see the presentation? Yeah, so thank you so much. Before I was told to discuss about the memory and the denial of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. But I thought that it would be wonderful, great to discuss today on memorials and the denial of the in post-genocide Rwanda, because then that includes memorization process in a broader sense, which means memorization process in Rwandan as a society, but also at the global level as well, because the genocide against Tutsi is a crime against humanity. And then for us, using this time reflecting on how the humanity in general, remember, reflect, or package the knowledge around the memory, I thought that it's important. I want to start with these two quotes by these two writers. One is Christoph Buch, who wrote, he said in his chapter, Demonic Transition, of how ordinary people can commit extraordinary evil. So he said that collective violence is a man-made event. The organized exclusion, persecution, and the murder of thousands of victims is not a chance occurrence that suddenly erupts within a society. The reason why I chose this quote from Christoph Buch is for us tonight to reflect on the 1994 genocide against Tutsi at the societal level, as the Rwandan society, at the community level as the survivors, but also other categories of Rwandans as well. To think about genocide against Tutsi as a challenge to the society, as one of the challenges we inherited from our history as a society. The reason why then Helen also said that any adequate account of the 1994 genocide in Rwanda must acknowledge manipulation by external forces, domestic pressures, and the psychological factors. Even so, the nature of the Rwandan state must be seen as absolutely central. So then Helen is also informing us that as whenever we reflect on the 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda, we must keep in mind that there are internal as well as the external factors, both in the causes of genocide, the way genocide was perpetrated, but also when we go to deny as well, we will find that both internal and external factors matter. So this fact, this quote, these scholars who reflected on the 1994 genocide against Tutsi, they were informing us what how Rwandan genocide, how Rwanda as a society reached the genocide. Rwanda existed from 11th century, and from 11th century to 15th century when Rwanda became a central kingdom, then to 19th century when Rwanda became into contact with European civilizations. All of these movements, the ideological factors that conceive the Rwandan society comes from all those sources, and they played a role from 1925 when Rwandan society changed its trajectory, its political identities from using 18 clans as a society to three ethnic groups, Hutu, Tutsi, and Twa, which was widely used by intellectuals who wrote on Rwanda. What does that produce? The conception of Rwandan society from 1925. What did it produce? First, it produced intellectuals. Our first intellectuals who were educated in an antagonistic way, confrontational way, and that obviously, brought us to the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. So you can, according to Stanton, as you may know, there are 10 stages of genocide, and one of them being extermination. And it took us to this slide you see here. This is the image of the 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda on the map of Rwanda. As you can see, the 1994 genocide against Tutsi, which was committed in 3 months, Tutsis and some Hutus who would hide them, who would give them safe places to hide, were killed in churches, factories, government offices, health facilities, schools. So when we represent in a physical way the 1994 genocide against Tutsi, when we talk about the extermination of Tutsis in 3 months or 100 days, as some of us would say, this is what we have as a map of Rwanda. So then, as we remember, as we are here to remember the life lost, these are the signs of those lives lost on the soil, on the hills, and on the rivers. So in my work, I happen to collect or to deepen the research on killing sites, where these killing sites, here I mean those places where Tutsis were gathered in as many numbers as they could, or the places where they took refuge to, and they were massacred there. So as you can see in front of you, I've been able to gather 333 killing sites during the 1994 genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda. Just to mention that this is not the total. This is not the total killing sites in Rwanda, because these sites does not include, for example, hills. It doesn't include rivers. It doesn't include lakes. So in front of you, you can see the marsh of Bugesera, papyrus marsh, Ruchahabi papyrus marsh, or swamp of Narama. Today, they had also commemorated the 1994 genocide against Tutsi. Today, it was a deadly day in this swamp. On the right side, you can also see the former Gwinhavu mine shaft. This was a deadly place where Tutsis from Kayonza, almost around the Gwinhavu hospital, were gathered and killed. Some of them were transported to this place, and some were thrown, were killed, were covered with machetes, shot, and thrown inside this mine shaft. These are part of the killing side. This is some of the remaining signs of how Tutsis were massacred or slaughtered on the soil of Rwanda. This took me to the memorials. But before I talk about the memorials here on the killing site, I want to mention that the killing sites used during the 1994 genocide against Tutsi include latrines, include water, rivers, and lakes, include churches,